all throughout life, we've had a vocabulary to describe many forms of medium that we deemed as iconic moments in history. In South Dakota, we have the Mount Rushmore, which features four of the most iconic presidents in history. In the NBA, we have what's known as the Golden Era, the 80s, in which was said to have revived the league in large part due to what we call the big three of Bird, Magic, and MJ, Celtics, Lakers, and Bulls. Well, the medium of anime is no different. See, Dragon Ball is what's widely known as the godfather of anime and manga, but the era I'm about to discuss took place in the West in the post Dragon Ball era. This era was known as the Big Three of anime. These three series took place during a time in which the world was starving for the next Dragon Ball like franchise. And with many anime coming out of the woodworks during this time, there was a lot of competition. However, these three series were able to stand head and shoulders above the rest of their contemporaries and deliver a decade of dominance in every aspect of the imagination that you could consider when it comes to success. From the mid 2000s to the early 2010s, these three series were known as the big three of anime. I'm talking Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. The first series I'm going to talk about is Naruto, the most recognizable anime character in series in the West after Goku and Dragon Ball. Man, what's not to be said about this series that has become a cultural phenomenon in so many countries, continents around the world since making its debut in the Shonen Jump magazine in 1999, and of course Toonami on Cartoon Network in 2005. That's right, 2005. So, the story starts off like this. 12 years ago, a nine-tailed fox demon threatened to destroy the village until it was sealed away in the body of a firstborn child through the village's chief, the fourth Hokage. That baby was Naruto, and due to the war, Naruto grew up orphaned and shunned by everybody in his village because of the nine-tailed fox spirit being sealed inside of him. People were afraid. They weren't sure if the beast might awaken and attack him someday. But a decree made by the current Hokage said that no one in the village should speak about the situation. So Naruto, growing up without an orphan, without any friends or loved ones to him at all, grew up alone and in pain and pulled pranks all over the village just to try to get anybody's attention. The kid was also the worst student in his academy and bottom of the class. Now, 12 years old, Naruto's dream is to become the Hokage, in this context, the village chief. That way, everybody will look up to him and acknowledge him like he's somebody important. This journey will take Naruto on some of the most growth and just epic journeys you will ever see. Naruto is regarded heavily as one of the greatest underdog stories of all time, but it's also one of the great stories when it comes to the subject of the cycle of hatred and overcoming hatred. See, many antagonists, including Naruto himself, struggle against hatred that's been created through wars and other forms of strife in the ninja world, which leads to many compelling story arcs and character arcs about how they handle such hatred and treat others based on their own experience with it. If you thought Thanos was a great villain, you haven't seen anything yet. Naruto is a series that has run for over 10 years, and it is one of the greatest and most recognizable anime and manga of all time. Next, we have One Piece. Wealth, fame, power. Gold Roger, who became king of the pirates, had everything. And then, right before his execution, he announced, "You want my treasure? You can have it. I left everything I own in one place." These words ignited the great pirate era, where men and women across the Grand Line would venture out in search of the legendary treasure called One Piece and claim the title as King of the Pirates. Our main character, Monkey D. Luffy, became a rubber man after eating a devil fruit known as the Gum Gum fruit. He, now 18 years old, dreams of becoming king of the pirates. But see, Luffy's an interesting case. He's goofy, and he wants to be king of the pirates, not so he can rule over everybody, but for freedom. One Piece, there's so many things I can say about this amazing series that became serialized in 1997 in the Weekly Shonen Jump magazine, and to this day is still running over 25 years later. the story is actually now entered its final arc. But we're going to talk a little bit about what makes this series so great and how it's been able to stand throughout multiple decades of success. See, One Piece is heavily known for its amazing world building. Every arc takes place on its own unique island full of so much culture and people, whether it's an island that is completely made out of cake and sweets, taking inspiration from Alice in Wonderland, or deserts that resemble the pyramids of Egypt, or even water temples that look like they've taken inspiration from ancient Rome. Each story arc takes inspiration from some different sort of other medium, but creates a people in a living world and culture where it feels like there's a story there that's happening even without the influence of the main characters. I think we know many stories that feel like they don't really start until the main cast gets in, but One Piece is known for just creating such an amazing world where it feels like all the characters, the side cast, the different factions, whether it's the military police force or other pirate groups, get just as much time in the sun, where it feels like the story is one living, breathing world that not only gives plenty of focus to the main cast, but arguably at some of its best moments when it focuses on factions outside of them, whether it be alliances or different plot reveals or theories. This series feeds you breadcrumbs and breadcrumbs as the story goes on, and is known for having so many mysteries and intrigues as far as what this means or what that means. And this is a story that may seem a little goofy up front because it's about pirates, but I guarantee you it is a lot darker than that. There are many themes that this story touches on, from freedom to slavery, discrimination. And this story will make you laugh. It's funny, but it'll also make you cry and get really serious in a heartbeat. It's also known as a good underdog story, but it's a great story of adventure, friendship, struggle, and strife to become the best pirate group that this crew is trying to be to reach their goals, and all the other pirates that are invested in this journey as well, including corrupt government officials who have a direct influence on the state of the world themselves and how they operate in this one giant pool of a story. One Piece is a story that has actually recently surpassed Batman as far as its overall collection of comic books sold. It just passed the 500 million marker. It's one of the few magazines in Japan that's actually surpassed Dragon Ball, and the only magazine in Japan that surpassed Batman. So that it's a great time to be a One Piece fan as the story enters this final saga, and I could not recommend this member of the big three more. And last but not least, we have Bleach. 15-year-old Ichigo Kurosaki is a bit of a delinquent who's always been able to see the souls of the dead since he was young. Unlike the previous two antagonists, where Naruto lives in a fantasy ninja world and Luffy lives in a fantasy pirate world, Ichigo lives in the real world of Japan as a high school student. One day, Ichigo meets Rukia Kuchiki, a Shinigami or Soul Reaper who is in town to slay Hollows. Hollows are souls of the dead who lay around after death and later become man-eating creatures due to the loneliness of the circumstances in which led to their death and them not being able to move on. Shortly after meeting Rukia, Ichigo's family is attacked by a Hollow, and it's only through Rukia sharing her powers with Ichigo after her getting beat up that Ichigo awakens the powers of a Soul Reaper and now becomes the substitute Soul Reaper of his town. Man, Bleach definitely, especially in the beginning, comes off as a lot darker and edgier compared to with the other two members of the big three. And Ichigo, unlike Naruto and Luffy, is a lot more serious and introverted. And so I think that definitely will relate to a different demographic of an audience, but still within the realms of the Shonen Battle series. So Bleach is a story that revolves around Ichigo and this cast and tells many stories and themes that have to do with the code of the samurai, but also death and overcoming death, as well as one's humanity and what that means in the face of doing what you have to do to protect what you love. It also covers themes as far as loneliness and dealing with loss, as well as changes in one's life, and then later acceptance and what that means to coming to terms with our own identity. Ichigo and Bleach definitely, or I should say Ichigo, when it comes to his goals, might not be as out and gigantic as Luffy wanting to be the Pirate King or Naruto wanting to be the Hokage. He's closer to what you'd expect from a Spider-Man. Someone who has more human goals when it comes to wanting to protect his loved ones from harm, which really works in a story that has to do with a lot of villains and greater factions that have much bigger rules and regiments that directly contrast what Ichigo wants from himself and for his family. Ichigo, like many adolescents and young adults, struggles with understanding what he wants in life and as far as what his presence in the world means. I think many of us in that sort of adolescent or 18 to 35 age are confronted as we get older with a much greater and large society that we reject in many different ways, shapes, or forms. And that's something that you see as a theme that's prevalent throughout Bleach. And so it makes that struggle throughout the story very relatable in and of itself, and trying to understand who we are as people and what that means as we grow up and get older and how it influences those around us. You know, Bleach is a story that definitely has a very unique and strong aesthetic to it, just like the aforementioned. But it is an amazing story, and there's never been a better time to be a Bleach fan. So Bleach, I believe, was serialized in the Weekly Shonen Jump manga back in 2001 and began its anime adaptation in 2004. The peak of the Big Three era, you know, was the early 2000 or the mid 2000s to the early 2010s. We're talking about over a decade of dominance. Now, the Bleach anime ended abruptly in 2012, but is now returning in fall of 2022 to adapt the final arc of the manga, which hadn't been animated up to that point. So there's never been a great time to be a Bleach fan. And so that is my pitch to you for each of the big three. If you made it this far and you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. My next video will be a top 5 movies for newcomers who are interested in getting into anime. I think sometimes a movie can be a better introduction than a television series if that's your preferred choice of medium. So look forward to seeing that. I know this third one came a little bit later than the second, but we're back now. So yeah, until the next video, see you then.